Hello, and today I want to give you my top 5 tips for how to get the most scholarship money that you can get. Now, in this video, I'm very specifically talking about private scholarship money. I'm not talking about scholarship money that comes from the school or what's called institutional money. This will be money that comes privately from companies, nonprofits, those kinds of things. This is money you're applying to outside of the school to get extra money for school. So what are those top 5 tips? Tip number 1, follow directions. I know that might seem like a really stupid tip, but I cannot tell you how many students I have seen submit scholarships and they didn't follow the directions. Why would I ever give anybody money that couldn't follow directions, okay? So read the directions, read them carefully, follow the directions, and that will greatly increase your chances of getting scholarship money. If I'm on the scholarship committee, if a kid didn't follow directions, I'm gonna just throw it out. So it could have been a phenomenal essay, whatever, but follow the directions, that's gonna get you pretty far. Also a very good tip for job applications in the future. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is, it's a numbers game. Scholarships, a lot of people, what I see most people do is they have difficulty finding the scholarships. Even when they find the scholarships, they don't qualify for them. And so they end up applying to 3, 4, 5 scholarships and then they give up. Scholarships, you have to apply to many to get the kind of money you're talking about to go to college. You know, most people, to really make college affordable, need $40, $50, $60, $70, $80,000. You're not going to get that most of the time, although I have seen it happen, applying to 2 or 3 scholarships. You're going to be applying to hundreds of scholarships in order to get that kind of money. So you can't just give up after 1 or 2 or 3. You really need to apply to as many as you possibly can. Tip number 3, go for the smaller dollar amounts. A lot of students will see a scholarship for $200, $300, whatever, and they just won't apply because it's just, oh, it's only $200, it's $500, and they keep applying to like these huge scholarships for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Well, that's great. You can definitely apply to those. Every other student is also applying to those. Wouldn't you rather get 5 scholarships worth $500 versus $0 of a $5,000 scholarship or something, right? Like something is better than nothing. And so go for those less competitive scholarships as well. Tip number 4, submit early. Students, you guys drive me nuts with this one. Stop procrastinating. Submit your stuff early. When I say early, try to shoot for like a week, at least a week, if not earlier. But the reason is because you're gonna submit it, and then about 3 days later, I want you to follow up with the scholarship committee and just say, hey, I submitted my scholarship application to you a few days ago. I just wanna make sure that you received everything. You wanna make sure it didn't get lost, because you'd be surprised how many times, this is an extra duty for whoever is taking all this scholarship stuff in. Usually it's like an administrator or somebody who runs the front desk. This is something extra on top of their regular job, and things just get lost, especially when a lot of applications are coming in. So you want to make sure that that comes in so that you have time in case something was missed that goes in. A lot of people think a letter of recommendation went in, it didn't, the person forgot about it. The other thing you want to follow up with them for is because you're putting your name in there. They're going to remember the person who they had some contact with versus the student they didn't have contact with. But definitely submit them early. It also is really stressful for students when you're trying to submit something the night before. If I'm on a scholarship committee, why am I going to even look at somebody's application that came in at 11:55 when it was due at midnight, right? Like, I'm still going to look at it, and if it was a good application, I would award it, but that doesn't look very good, right? So I'm going to give some, bonus points, so to speak, to the student who really was on top of their game. So submit your stuff early. Tip number 5. Now this one's a big one. This can definitely make or break your application. It's the reason most students I see don't get their scholarship applications submitted. Your essays, or big time as videos nowadays, it doesn't matter. Whatever your application materials are that the committee is wanting from you, you need to sell yourself, right? You're selling yourself at the end of the day. Why would I give you money over this other student, right? Because all they know is what you submit to them, whether it's a video, whether it's an essay, whatever. So you really need to sell yourself to this committee. And how do you do that? What I say is, for example, let's say you're writing an essay I'll give you an example. I had a student was writing an essay, and the prompt was something like, you know, how has technology positively impacted our lives? It was something really broad like that. And you'll notice most of the time they're asking you something really broad. And so the initial essay the student wrote was like, you know, computers are really helpful, and the internet is really awesome, and social media and blah, blah, blah. That's really boring, you guys. We all know technology has done some really great things. So why are you repeating what anybody else would write? Why would you repeat something that they can Google? You want to make it something that shows something special about you. It could be a character trait, it could be a leadership quality, it could be a soft skill, it could be a hard skill, you know, whatever that is, it is, but you want to sell yourself. So instead, what I worked with the student on is, you know, again, the prompt was something about technology and how it's positively impacted us. This student is going into music and in music composition and music performance, that kind of thing. And his father is also a very talented, very well-known musician. And his dad was telling him about how, you know, back in the day when he was his son's age, they a lot of time would work with singers, and the singer would say, you know, I want it in this key, like whatever the music was, I want it in a certain key. Well, they'd go to practice, and the singer would say, oh man, I need it in a different key. Well, back then you had to rewrite the whole thing. You had to rewrite the whole composition on paper so that it fit changed key. He's like, now I can hit a button on my software and like, boom, the key changed. It takes me a few minutes to change it versus before it would take me weeks. So the student changed his narrative and said, you know, in my career and in music, and he picked 3 points. And one of them was like, you know, software technology now allows me to work in my career faster and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the essay ended up being very pointed toward him and his career and how he was going to use it. Isn't that a lot more interesting than like, computers are good, internet is good, this stuff is awesome? Right? Like you want it to kind of show your leadership skills or something, right? How it's going to be used in your career. Another example would be like if you're writing an example on, let's say it's like the Malaria Foundation. I'm making this up. And they're like, you know, write an essay about malaria, and you write an essay like malaria is bad. Duh, you know, we all know that malaria is bad. Why are you telling a Malaria Foundation that malaria is bad? They know all the research. They do this for a living. What you would want to write instead would be maybe like, you know, I did a fundraiser in my, you know, Key Club or some group or whatever. I did a fundraiser to raise money for people in third world countries who can't afford malaria medication, or something, you know, something like that, you know, or whatever. But that would show more, right? I showed leadership qualities and organizational skills. I did this fundraiser. I contributed to this cause that I'm very passionate about. That's why you should give me this scholarship over somebody who just wrote malaria is bad, right? So you always want to have some way. Now, it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be crazy out of the box. It doesn't need to be super creative. It just needs to be a little bit more specific and really showcase your abilities and you know, why are you special at the end of the day? And I'm sure there's lots of reasons why that is, but you need to show them, the committee, that, and that way that they can, you know, sort you out from the rest of the applications. So those are my top 5 tips for how to get some scholarship money. If you have any questions or anything, please post them below. We also do an awesome scholarship package here where we actually find all of the scholarships for you, so that it's very easy to find, to apply to hundreds of these scholarships. So if you are interested in learning more about scholarships, how you can kind of win that game, go ahead and message us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So thank you.